My world fell apart. I'd woken up inside a novel as the tragic heroine in one of those grim, tear-jerker stories. You know the kind of plot. The girl who gets tormented in every way imaginable, loses her baby, gets mutilated, then dies miserably so the male lead can spend the rest of his days drowning in regret. Honestly, this brutal world could go sit in a corner. I fell asleep cursing this exact book, and when I woke up, I was stuck right in the middle of it. Specifically, in the scene where the heroine gets blamed for her own miscarriage. Perfect. This I could use. I grabbed my phone and dialed emergency services. Help, someone tried to murder me. Let's see if this tragic universe actually has law enforcement. When I regained consciousness again, I was lying in a hospital bed. The sharp smell of disinfectant stabbed my nose, and I groaned. A tall man in a black trench coat stood beside the bed, voice cold enough to frost the windows. If you can wake up, stop pretending. Go apologize to Lila. That voice. Why did it sound familiar? Oh right, it was a line straight from the novel I had been reading before I fell asleep. Matt Lennon. Handsome, severe, and with the emotional intelligence of a brick. In the original story, he and the heroine, Alara, were married only on paper. Alara had adored him for years, while Matt was half drawn to her without ever admitting it. Then his childhood sweetheart, Lila, suddenly reappeared. Lila drugged him to get him into her bed, but fate twisted and sent Matt stumbling into Alara instead. Afterward, Lila claimed Alara had planned everything. Alara couldn't clear her name. Matt believed the worst, and so began Alara's downward spiral. She became pregnant from that night. The pregnancy was fragile. Lila barged into their home, picked a fight, then shoved her down the stairs, ending the pregnancy. And now this man wanted me to apologize to the culprit. Not happening. I glared at him. Apologize? No chance. Matt stared like I had just sprouted horns. So, you finally dropped the act? Lila said your kind persona was fake. He grabbed my arm, trying to drag me off the bed. You fell because you were careless, then accused her. She's been crying non-stop from guilt. If you have a conscience at all, go apologize. I yanked my arm away, dizziness hitting me hard. This body was still weak from the miscarriage.
Give me my phone, I said.
He hesitated, then sighed, pulling his phone from his pocket. Fine, call her from here and apologize. I'll let it go because you're not in good shape, but don't push me again or... I didn't listen. I snatched the phone and dialed emergency services. Yes, hello. I want to report an assault. Matt's expression froze. Soon enough, officers crowded around my bed. I let out a dramatic sob. Please help me. My husband cheated with his mistress. She came to our house, pushed me down the stairs, and my baby didn't survive. Matt looked like he had swallowed a light bulb. That is not what happened, officer. She's lying. Matt, came a soft voice at the door. Everyone turned. Lila stood there in a white dress, looking like a fragile angel. Please, spare me. Before she could speak, I tore the phone from my hand, scrambled away, and yanked my hair into a tangled mess. She's here again, I screamed. She wants to finish me off. She killed my baby, and now she wants to kill me. Lila froze. An officer raised a hand to block Matt. Sir, we need separate statements. Step back. I curled behind another officer. I installed cameras at home because I was scared during the pregnancy. You can check the footage. The officers left to retrieve the recordings. Lila's face strained. She obviously had never expected evidence to exist. Honestly, the original heroine really tested my patience. She had the footage all along but still chose to suffer in silence. For what? Bonus points for being pitiful. The officers returned quickly. They held up the footage. The video showed Lila cornering me, shoving me down the staircase, and the blood pooling at the bottom. Then Matt rushing in later, seeing only Lila acting helpless beside me. Lila collapsed on the floor. Matt's face darkened as he whispered, Lila, you really caused the miscarriage. Lila crawled to him, sobbing. I didn't mean to. I just wanted her to give up on you. Please forgive me. I snapped. Forgive you? I'm the one you shoved. I'm the one who lost the baby. Why are you crying to him? Wrong victim, sweetheart. The whole room fell silent. I caught myself, cleared my throat, and switched back to pitiful mode. Officer, the evidence is clear. I want to press charges. She's dangerous. I'm terrified she'll come after me again. Lila was arrested and taken away. Matt stared at the door as if his entire worldview had shattered. I lay back on the bed. Matt, I want a divorce. He actually had the nerve to look offended. You don't have the right to demand a divorce. That line came straight from the dictionary of entitled billionaire husbands. I grabbed the water glass and threw it at his head. A divorce is my legal right. You don't get to grant or deny it. I'll have the papers sent tomorrow. If you refuse to sign, I'll release everything that happened today. Everyone will know the CEO of Lennon Corporation had an affair and covered up the attack that caused his wife's miscarriage. Let's see how your shareholders feel about that. A cut opened on his forehead. Water dripped from his coat. He whispered, Alara, you're not supposed to be like this. I laughed. And how exactly should she be? Quiet, obedient, swallowing every bit of humiliation you two throw at her? No thanks. I'm done. Matt stumbled out in a daze. A sharp ache pulsed in my chest, the remnants of the original Alara's grief. Don't cry for him, I thought. He was never worth it. In the end, Lila spent a fortnight behind bars, 15 days of lockup for assault. She skirted heavier charges, probably thanks to some quiet favors and corporate elbow grease from Matt's side. The next morning I hired a lawyer and started hairlining every legal boundary. Divorce papers were drawn, assets itemized, accounts traced, everything laid out so cleanly there was no wiggle room to swindle me. I never understood those tragic heroines who walked away with nothing, proclaiming virtue, while leaving with empty hands. If someone breaks you, you take what the law gives back, and maybe a few extra bucks for emotional damages while you're at it. Of course, Matt stalled. He refused to sign, so he sent his mother to pressure me instead. Mrs. Lennon arrived in full battle regalia, Chanel and disdain, sipping coffee like she was tasting mortals. In rich families, marriages are arrangements. You caused a scandal by calling the police. You're being childish.
Right.
The family tree had rotted at the trunk. I picked up my own coffee and, without a word, threw it in her face. Her perfect mask cracked. Brown liquid soaked her hair and suit. She screamed, Alara, are you insane? Yes, insane from your family's non-stop cruelty. Your son cheats, your son's mistress injures me, and you tell me to let it go? You excuse everything when it benefits you. She tried to retort, then snapped orders to the guards, take her to the basement, teach her some manners. Old habits, old abuses, the same cruel tactics that had broken the original Alara. False imprisonment, emotional torture, the lot. I didn't wait. I dialed 911. I'm at the Lennon mansion. My mother-in-law is trying to detain me against my will. Please send officers. Her expression went from smug to stunned. I played a recording I'd made earlier. The whole exchange captured, her threats and commands laid bare. The lead officer listened, then leveled a civic lecture at her about unlawful detention and threats. They couldn't charge her that day without more, but watching the mighty Mrs. Lennon stand there, coffee-stained and speechless, was enough. As I left with the police, the officer leaned in and said, quietly, stay safe. I'll probably be calling you again, I replied with a smile. Matt dragged his feet on the divorce, but trouble found other forms. Lila kept scheming, inventive and dangerous. She tried to release a venomous snake near my apartment. Too bad for her, I'd upgraded the security, cameras everywhere, and the footage caught everything. I called the police. Yes, it's me again. She attempted to kill me with a snake. She also organized a doxing and smear campaign, paid trolls to leak my private info and photos, flooding my life with harassment. I went to the police again, claiming the emotional toll was pushing me toward a breakdown. Lila ended up back in a holding cell another 15 days. Even out of custody, peace didn't come. Matt shadowed me, half confused, half possessed by his own regrets. I cornered him in a coffee shop. What do you want? I asked, blunt and tired. He looked thinner, worn. After the incident with his mother and Lila's arrests, he started acting like someone discovering a new language. I was wrong. I apologize. Fine, accepted, I said, shrugging. Anything else? You've changed, he said, voice soft. I don't think you love me anymore. Of course, he did not understand. I had no patience to babysit his confusion. You cheated. Your mistress caused my miscarriage. Why are you asking why I'm different? He stammered, then tried to claim the photos were fakes, that nothing ever happened between them. He told me he was in love with me now. The timing was hysterical. Months of delay, a small fortune in legal fees, and finally, court. My lawyer presented the body cam footage, The snake incident, the doxing, and the messages from the old phone, showing Matt's cold neglect, his mother's abuse, and Lila's manipulations. The argument was simple, forensic, and brutal, and it worked. The judge granted the divorce, split the assets equitably, and released me back into life with my name intact. Stepping out of court felt like sunlight. Matt stumbled after me, reaching for my hand. I sidestepped. "We are no longer married," I told him. "Don't touch me," he begged. "I regret everything. I'm sorry." I kept walking. Regret does not pay mortgages, or the bills I'd racked up, or the way someone stole the future I was supposed to have. If he wanted to make amends, he could start by signing every paper quietly and making sure I left with what I deserved. I thought Matt's tearful confession outside the courthouse was just another performance, but unfortunately, he meant every word. He started haunting my daily routine like a persistent ghost. A courier rang my doorbell every morning with armfuls of roses. Boxes from luxury boutiques piled up on my porch. Some chef must have been exhausted preparing his daily offerings because a full breakfast spread arrived without fail. Matt was convinced this was romance. I called it harassment with extra calories. Since patching things up was never an option, taking any of it felt wrong. So I repurposed everything. The gourmet meals went to the neighborhood strays. Delightful little creatures. They worshipped me like a benevolent goddess. The bouquets ended up decorating random public planters. The jewelry, which was too pricey to toss but too insulting to accept, I shipped straight to his mother's estate. Rumor said she fainted twice from the sheer fury. Matt, in her eyes, had officially downgraded from disappointment to disgrace. By this point, I could no longer feel even a flicker of the original Alera's lingering emotions. She had finally found peace. For all the times I scolded her for being weak, she was never evil. She had simply been trapped in a life that crushed her spirit. I planned to fix that for both of us. But Matt's persistence was getting unbearable. One afternoon, after a simple shopping trip, I realized he was following me yet again. That was the last straw. I pulled out my phone and made the call I knew by heart. "Officer, someone is stalking me." When the patrol car arrived, they found him crouched beside a lamppost like a lost puppy. The officer's expression suggested he would rather be dealing with tax fraud or even a bar fight. Matt croaked out, "I'm only trying to win my ex-wife back." The officer looked ready to award him a medal for audacity. He lectured him about personal boundaries, healthy behavior, and the difference between romance and harassment. By the end of it, Matt promised, in front of witnesses, to stop tailing me around town. Before he left, the officer gave my shoulder a sympathetic pat. "I hope your life gets easier soon." I almost cried. Finally, someone who understood my suffering. Matt lingered long enough to ask one last question. His voice was soft, confused, and strangely scared. "Alera, are you really you?" His question struck both of us silent. Looking at me now, he must have sensed it. The woman standing before him was not the same person who once pleaded for scraps of affection. That version of Alera had vanished the day he broke her. "What answer do you expect?" I asked. He gave a helpless little smile. "I don't even know. You're nothing like before. I don't know how to be around you." "If I told you I wasn't the same Alera, would you feel better?" I asked. "Would that let you pretend she still loved you somewhere far away?" Then I said what needed to be said. "Alera does not love you anymore. Whoever I am, that fact will never change." He whispered, "If I had realized earlier, could we have fixed it?" "There are no rewinds in life," I replied. Then I walked away. After that, he behaved more like a normal human. He still made baffling choices now and then, but at least he stopped lurking behind trash cans. My new life settled into a comfortable rhythm. I took classes, enjoyed leisure, and let myself recover. The divorce payout could support 10 lifetimes, so I planned to savor every minute of the one I had. Lila, however, was spiraling fast. Word reached me that Matt had finally investigated her past. The story she fed him had been a lie. She hadn't left the country because her parents forced her. His mother had paid her to disappear because she was manipulative and impossible to control. Her adventures abroad were even worse. She found a wealthy benefactor, was caught by the man's wife, beaten, humiliated, and left with her reputation in ruins, so she came crawling back to Matt for money and stability. When Matt learned the truth, he snapped. He sued her for every cent he had spent on her, about $40 million. I only took issue with one thing. That money came from our marital assets. I heard she went feral in court and tried to attack him. Chaos followed. Poetic justice at its most dramatic. Meanwhile, I continued enjoying my blissfully calm life. Or so I thought. One evening after class, I slipped into a narrow alley on my way home. A silhouette lunged from the shadows with a knife raised. Before I could move, Matt burst out from the other side and threw himself in front of me, taking the stab straight to the abdomen. Of course. Another felony. I was so tired of this criminal circus. Lila stood there, a trembling mess of rage, her eyes wild. She screamed that I had ruined everything, that Matt would have married her, that I destroyed her life. She yanked the blade from Matt's body and came charging at me. Matt collapsed, unable to stand. He had no strength left to shield me. Thanks to the Taekwondo class I had just finished, my reflexes were sharp. I kicked her hard, sending her flying across the alley. I pinned her down, twisted her arms back, and used my jacket to tie her wrists. She shrieked curses, so I stuffed a sock in her mouth. My patience had limits. Matt finally crumpled to the ground, unconscious from blood loss. I sighed and called the police. Hello, it's me. Yes, again. This time we have a stabbing. After that, I called an ambulance for Matt because, unlike everyone else in this soap opera, I follow the law. When the officers arrived, they found one unconscious man and one gagged, thrashing woman tied like an unruly goat. Their silence said plenty. I met their stare and said, with complete sincerity, I hope this is the last time I have to bother you. The court handed down a long sentence for Lila, 20 years for grievous bodily harm. The knife had seriously injured one of Matt's vital organs, and he was clinging to life in the ICU. Finally, it felt like I had truly escaped the nightmare world that had tried to chew me up and spit me out. For the first time, I could breathe easy and live as a Lara, in this world, on my own terms. A full medical checkup confirmed I was in perfect health, strong, resilient, unbroken. As I left the doctor's office, I passed by the ICU and noticed an elderly woman rushing out. She collapsed to her knees before me, clutching at my legs with desperate strength. It was Matt's mother. The stress of her son's critical state had visibly aged her. She looked a decade older, drained and frantic. Ilara, I was wrong, so terribly wrong. Please go see Matt. He's in a coma. The doctors said if he doesn't wake soon, he'll be brain dead. I beg you, just pretend it's like saving a stray dog. Do it for good karma. Please. She began banging her head on the floor, drawing stares from everyone in the bustling corridor. This was the social nightmare of nightmares. I tried to walk away, but her grip held firm. Fine. I sighed. I'll go in, but the door stays open, and I'm keeping my phone on. I'm not risking anything. Her frantic nod was almost comical. I followed her into the room. Matt lay there, pale and fragile, tangled in tubes and monitors. His face had lost all color, his breathing was shallow. I paused, looked at him, then turned to his mother. I've seen him. Can I leave now? Before she could answer, the monitor blared. Panic flared as she dashed for a doctor. Then, slowly, his eyelids fluttered open. We stared at each other. I had no words. He whispered, barely audible. Are you really Ilara? I shook my head.
No.
He seemed to expect that answer. A faint smile touched his lips. Then, where is she? I took a deep breath.
She's gone.
You and Lila killed her. His breathing grew erratic, tears soaking the pillow beneath him. He tried to sit up, but his weakened body refused. Veins stood out on his forehead, eyes bloodshot and wild. I stepped back. If you survive this, spend the rest of your life making amends. And if you don't search for her. You won't find her. Don't taint her chance at a new beginning. Doctors rushed in, accompanied by Mrs. Lennon's sobs. I left the hospital, without looking back, calm and resolute. Matt survived, but only as a vegetable, permanently confined to a bed. Without him to steer the family empire, and with a mother more concerned with tea and spa days than business, the mighty Lennon Corporation couldn't sustain itself. Internal conflicts tore at it, and over time, the empire crumbled into ruin. I visited Lila once in prison. She was skeletal, her face hollowed, her eyes wide with desperation. Life behind bars hadn't been gentle. Ilara's story had officially ended. I had survived in her place, rewritten her fate, and stepped out of the shadow that had once suffocated her. As for the real Ilara's soul, I can only hope she's found peace, far from the cruelty and chaos of the people she left behind. Somewhere, she deserves a fresh start, untainted by the tragedies she once endured.